Is it possible that this could have happened?
He might have come, but yes, with other matters too.
I understand.
And they probably just told me they were preparing a file. They normally would tell me these things.
Yes. All right. So, as Mr. Chavez pointed out, you were,
See, the file was prepared at 29. You see?
it was, to be correct.
Yes, and that's number 29.
Yes.
And the file
And that is the
returned.
first time you would have actually been
Given-
given substantive material
yes,
statements to
yes.
give advice on. That is understood. But you were convinced during your involvement with this investigation that the police were doing their best to comply with all the advice that you were given.
Well, on the basis of my advice,
Yes. You agreed what I just said, that every time you gave advice, they tried their best to follow that advice.
yes.
I don't know if I'm referring to that same document. You don't have it. I'm now being told the commission doesn't have the activity lab.
This law,
It appears as though, as in a previous document, when copies are made, the contracted,
Oh, I see.
things get lost or misplaced in the process.
Okay.
And so therefore, the elongated copy that you may have, with all the information you're referring to, might not be on the one that you have. You're trying to benefit from your copy.
Right. I'm accepting, anyway, go ahead, get into that. Now, from the very inception, when you started to look at the evidence gathered in this case,
that's on the 12th.
on the 12th, do you agree that you always had questions
Yes.
about the credibility of Gillard's story?
Well, I would say, on the whole, I didn't, not on Grillard's story, on the evidence as a whole. I have had problems.
I had problems about the credibility of Gillard's story.
I wouldn't say the credibility of Gillard's story alone, because I was looking for evidence where I could have corroborated Gillard's story. I wasn't really condemning anybody. I had an open mind on the investigation. Mr. Hanman, you would know where I come from as a judge. I normally would see the persons in action where they would give their evidence subject to cross-examination, and I can ask questions, but in this case, remember, I'm only reading what the police wrote. So sometimes I have to be very careful, regardless how I may feel. I have to always have an open mind.
Do you agree with me that there was no precise information supplied by Gillard that could let anyone know on which precise date this alleged plan or this plot was had?
Well, he said sometime in June.
Sometime
In June 2015.
Yeah. The fact that he could not pinpoint a precise date, do you agree, would make it more difficult for his story, for the police to find evidence to support the story?
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no. If let me give you.
You see, in some cases, had the scenario been different, where there would have been more persons, things might have been easier. But when Gillard said that, look, it was only the two of them, it makes it all difficult, very difficult.
I
And
understand
some-
that makes it difficult.
And a
I agree
long
with you.
time after,
And a long time after.
yes. It was very,
But for
I would
instance-
say it's very difficult.
In the same way that we treat with alibi evidence, the fact that we don't know exactly when Gillard was complaining this incident took place, do you not agree that it would be difficult for investigators, for instance, to go and find out who may have been at home by Nizam's home on that specific day?
Because we didn't know which day it was.
We didn't know which day it was. So the point, that's the point I'm making. Or we didn't know if Gillard was in Venezuela on that day, or somewhere else. So because we had no idea on which date the allegation reported, do you agree that that made it a lot more difficult for the police to do any sort of investigation that could support the story of Gillard?
Well, I would say yes. Not to support his story, but you see, to find somebody who might have said, yes, these two men, they had a conversation or something, you know, they were together, we saw them together, things like that, because no one knew precisely what date it was.
Exactly. At one stage, your advice had been for this investigation to be shelved unless certain other steps.
Yes,
Okay.
because we needed to have confrontation done, because I do not know where the confrontation would have led us. Sometimes somebody might have said, yes, this is not so or something. We might have had some admission there. So it was necessary.
Right. Now, you have said generally that the police found themselves in difficulty, but I want to be clear. In terms of this investigation, the difficulties the police had were in arranging for the persons to be present at the same time to have those confrontations. Those were basically the-
Yes, because I think Mrs. Caesar informed me that sometimes Mr. Gillard would turn up, the other man would not be there, or the other man would be there and Gillard would have left, something like that, he told me. They're
Oh,
never there
but
together.
didn't you also
And one
receive-
time Gillard was abroad.
He was abroad, or he
Yes,
claimed to be abroad?
well, he was somewhere in Brazil or somewhere.
But you did see evidence on the file that Gillard was supposed to show up for confrontations and failed to show up on several occasions.
Well, they would not bring the file with me, they would inform me about that.
They would inform me about that. Did they inform you about that in this case? That many times Gillard was.
Well, no,
coming-
sometimes it's just the progress of the file, they would tell me, but not to come directly to tell me that. They will tell me that is what keeping them back in that investigation, but they don't report to me every time about what's going on. When they're finished, they bring the file. Because I have a lot of work to do and they have a lot of work too. Not only one matter they were investigating. Major crimes take over investigations all over the country. So sometimes we have 10 investigations going one time, so I can't just sit on one matter.
That is not, and major crimes would have that same difficulty with a lot of different ones to deal with. But you are aware that there were statements by police in this file about diligent efforts made by them to try and locate Gillard.
Well, I saw Narayan because
So
he
this
came and reported to me that he went there and Anthony was very reluctant to come to do the confrontation.
The only thing
I
I
don't know.
remember is the reluctance of Anthony. Do you remember seeing anything about the reluctance of Gillard? I'm asking
I've
directly.
seen that too.
Yes.
But what you asking me when they would come and inform me, they don't just come to tell me one thing. You know, sometimes the rank come about not matter and he say, look, I have difficulty. So this is how they keep me abreast. So it's not a question. I know both of them. Sometimes Gillard doesn't come.
Yes. So you agree that some or a lot of the difficulties the police had in moving this case forward in terms of investigation was contributed to significantly by Gillard not making himself available for confrontation.
Well, the file would so indicate.
His file was so indicated. Now, after giving advice that the investigation should be shelved unless you could have these confrontations, you gave later advice that investigations should continue. Do you agree
Yes.
with that? Okay.
Well, I kept the investigation open just in case somebody would come forward and
Fair
say
enough.
something. We couldn't just close it like that.
Right, fair enough. As far as you are aware, this investigation is still open.
Yes.
Now, you didn't direct the police, however, when you instructed that the investigation continue, you did not instruct them on any